When the studio lights dimmed, no one could have anticipated the course of events that would follow. Kelly Ripa sat in her familiar spot, preparing for the day ahead, her notes spread before her, her mind already rehearsing the familiar lines. She waited for Mark Consuelo's usual burst of energy, the mischievous grin, the playful banter, and the lively entrance that had become a staple of their on-screen chemistry. But that morning, something was different. Mark didn't arrive. At first, Kelly assumed it was a minor delay, maybe traffic or a last-minute commitment. But as the minutes stretched on and the clock ticked louder, a sense of unease began to settle in. As the show began, Kelly forced a smile for the cameras, greeting the audience with her usual warmth. But deep down, something was amiss. A folded note, written in Mark's unmistakable handwriting, offered a brief explanation. He needed space to make a decision. She could feel the weight of his absence in the silence that surrounded her. The studio, usually filled with energy, felt quieter than it ever had before. But the weight of uncertainty. After the broadcast, Kelly retreated to her dressing room. Her thoughts raced as she read the note once again. Mark's absence was unlike him. He was never impulsive or prone to sudden decisions, especially ones that affected their shared commitments. Memories of their decades together flashed through her mind, their shared mornings, their celebrations of milestones, their laughter echoing through their home. This uncharacteristic break in their routine felt heavy. She tried calling him, but only reached voicemail. The gap between them felt tangible, pressing down on her chest. She couldn't shake the uncertainty that lingered in her thoughts. What had happened to prompt this? What had led Mark to step back in this way? In the quiet, she found herself pondering the fragility of even the most enduring partnerships. The public reaction. By midday, the news of Mark's absence had gone public. Fans began speculating, headlines formed, and social media buzzed with theories and concerns. But Kelly remained calm, choosing not to engage with the noise. Her focus was on understanding Mark, reconnecting with him, and discovering the truth behind his decision. At home, she noticed small remnants of his morning, a half-finished cup of coffee, his jacket left draped over the chair. These familiar details didn't provide any answers, but served as quiet reminders of the life they shared. Security footage from their home offered no real insight, just a view of Mark walking deliberately, yet with a heaviness in his steps. Kelly had no choice but to wait for a phone call, a message, or any sign that would help her understand what was unfolding. And then, finally, his name appeared on her phone. The conversation that changed everything. When Kelly heard Mark's voice, a rush of emotions flooded through her. There was relief, but also lingering confusion. Mark spoke softly, carefully, explaining that he needed space, a pause from the constant performance of public life. The pressures of their daily routine, the scrutiny and the expectations had become overwhelming. He wasn't abandoning her or their life together. Instead, he was seeking time to breathe, to reconnect with himself, and to realign with what mattered most. Kelly listened intently, her heart heavy yet understanding. She realized in that moment that Mark wasn't rejecting their partnership, but was simply trying to find clarity. Their conversation, raw and intimate, revealed the vulnerability behind the public persona they had both carried for so long. It was a moment that reminded them both of the humanity that lay beneath every role they played, whether as co-hosts, spouses, or public figures. Empathy and understanding. As Mark shared his thoughts, Kelly felt frustration melt away. She had never intended to push him to the point of needing such a drastic step. His intention wasn't to cause harm or worry, it was simply a need for personal reflection. Their relationship, she realized, required more than just perseverance. It required empathy, attention, and most importantly, the ability to give each other space without fear of judgment. She hadn't seen the quiet strain he carried, buried beneath the constant demands of their public lives. It was in that moment that she understood just how important it was to allow each other room to breathe, to grow, and to be fully present with one another, redefining their partnership. As they both returned to work, there were still traces of tension in the air. Executives, media, and audiences watched closely, searching for any signs of cracks in their partnership. But Kelly and Mark showed the world that vulnerability and professionalism can coexist. They demonstrated that a strong partnership isn't about perfection or always maintaining appearances. It's about understanding, reflection, and the willingness to grow together. Through this experience, they redefined what it meant to be partners, not just in work, but in life. Their relationship was not just a series of shared duties, it was a shared humanity. And in that humanity, they found the strength to navigate even the most difficult challenges. The art of communication. Mark's handwritten note, though brief, carried a weight of meaning. It was an acknowledgement of his needs, a request for understanding, and a plea for trust. Kelly's response, measured yet supportive, illustrated the depth of their connection. Together, they showed the world that communication in a partnership isn't about perfection. It's about honesty, timing, and empathy. They modeled how to navigate difficult decisions, respect each other's individual needs, and preserve the connection even when life feels uncertain. The value of space. Mark's decision to step back was not a withdrawal from love or responsibility. It was a necessary act of self-care, one that allowed him to return to their partnership with authenticity and renewed energy. Kelly's acceptance of his need for space was a powerful lesson in patience and trust. She didn't try to control the situation or force him to return before he was ready. Instead, she honored his decision, giving him the space he needed to reconnect with himself. Their relationship, built on a foundation of trust and respect, thrived because they both understood the importance of giving each other room to breathe. Strength in vulnerability. Throughout this experience, both Kelly and Mark displayed remarkable strength through vulnerability. Kelly faced the cameras with a calm honesty, turning uncertainty into a moment of connection. Mark, too, admitted his need for reflection without fear of judgment. Together, they showed that true strength in a partnership comes from being vulnerable with one another, acknowledging weaknesses, sharing fears, and allowing room for growth. Private moments, public lessons. Their story resonated because it struck a delicate balance between private reflection and public visibility. Audiences saw Kelly holding it together on air, Mark taking time for himself in the quiet of their home, and both of them returning with a deeper understanding of one another. This experience served as a lesson in how real relationships are built on patience, trust, and the courage to take a step back when needed. It reminded viewers that vulnerability and honesty are essential ingredients for lasting love. Returning to normal. As time passed, life began to return to its rhythm. Mark re-entered the routine of their daily lives with a renewed sense of purpose, savouring the quiet moments that had once been overshadowed by external pressures. Kelly, too, approached her responsibilities with renewed confidence, knowing that their partnership was stronger than ever. Together, they demonstrated that even in the face of uncertainty, love and commitment can create stability